Yes, we'll be sharing the link. We'll share the link to the Facebook. Otherwise, you can always go on to Sipping Thoughts, the Facebook page, and you'll find it there.
But good evening and a very warm welcome. Thank you all for joining us at Sipping Thoughts today for an expert session on grow microgreens and reap macro benefits with Savio Souza himself. We're very, very excited today to have Savio with us, who is the world's #1 presenter on urban farming. He's an author, he's an entrepreneur, and a motivational speaker. So thank you, Savio, for joining us today. Today, Savio will tell us how any new grower, which includes me, can multiply their harvest 10x by following very, very simple methods. So I know that you're all ready to get started, so I'm not going to take up too much of your time. I'd like to take a moment to tell you a little bit about Sipping Thoughts. So Sipping Thoughts is a multi-platform media company that was co-founded by me, Sukirti Gupta, and Meeta Gudgutia. It was set up keeping in mind the tagline, Real Women, Real Lives. We wanted to create a no judgment platform and create a network of women for women, and of course for the men that support us. Sipping Thoughts is available on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, and please do check us out on our website. And now the person you've been waiting for, Savio Souza, who is the founder of the Green Education Organization. He launched his first training program in 2012 in a humble public school classroom with a batch of 15 Eco Club students. He has conducted hundreds of workshops across the country in a diverse range of markets, such as world-famous entrepreneur organization, FICCI, and various nonprofit causes dedicated to social upliftment and environmental awareness, as well as corporates like Godrej, adding a long list to the line of private workshops. So, as you have guessed, he knows a thing or two about growing your own food. In conversation today with Savio is Harika. And Harika is a life and personal growth coach and our own in-house champion of holistic well-being. So welcome, Harika, also.
Always a pleasure.
And some do's and don'ts, some house rules. Yes, you are all on mute because we want the focus to be on Savio and that we don't get any background noise. But we would like the session to be as interactive as possible. Please do keep chatting and sending us your questions, your thoughts. You can also raise your hand using the Zoom feature, but please do write your question in the comment box. We will unmute you. We would like you to ask your question yourself, but please do keep your question related to the topic and to the point. And as always, please do forgive us for any technology glitches. So welcome, Savio, welcome, Harika, and take it away.
Thank you. Welcome, Savio. It's really good to
have you. Very glad to be here. Yes.
Before I start, maybe I'd like to hear from our audience today. What is it that that they think microgreens are? Maybe one or two words in the chat box so that we all know really what microgreens are. I'd like us to share. Use the chat box freely, guys. So what are microgreens?
A lot of people are saying sprouts which grew up to 2 leaves height, which can be grown at low cost, small shoots which I use in my smoothie, baby plants, compact nutrients in a small bundle. So yeah, let's get started. I think we've got.
Yeah, I like the protein pack nutrition. That sounds good. So Savio, why don't you tell us what are microgreens and what is all this hype about? Is it really hype or there's lots of reality to it? What would you?
Yes. So before we get into all that good stuff, I have 3 very simple rules for this quick session we have today. The first one is that we're going to have a lot of fun during this program, right? This session. Is it okay if we have fun? Yeah?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, good. The second is I'm going to give it my 110%, right? Is it okay if I give it my all? Yeah, in these few minutes?
I'm going to, yeah. And I'm sure everybody here is ready to absorb 120%.
Yes, and then coming to you, how you've designed this Harika, we're going to keep it as interactive as humanly possible. I'm loving the Q&A kind of format to it. And I've got a 4th bonus rule is that we all are going to take action, and we're not just going to sit and listen, but take action and do something about this, right? Don't sit on the fence. Just move toward what you really want out of this, right? So coming back to your question, yes, microgreens have got an amazing following these days, and for good reason. Mm-hmm. They are connected to the holistic wellness market simply because people in this niche are so fed up of being sick and tired, right? Of the kind of food that we have in our current system, which is
Absolutely.
completely toxic, completely. Now we have what I call the double-edged sword, right? So traditionally, we have always had food which is filled with pesticides and chemicals, but now we've got food which has a double-edged sword, which is on the side of the spectrum of the coronavirus, right? So the virus threat on one side, and then we have the traditional, always the badly processed food, which is full of pesticide and chemicals in the supply chain. So
Mhm.
now with microgreens, I'm not saying that you can buy a farm straight up and you go and start something on your own like this, where you grow all your vegetables, but start small, right? And then work bigger and better in the future. So all I'm saying is today you're in the right place, and I want to commend your effort and your awareness for the right frequency of kind of food spectrum where you can really zero in on something that you can start today, right? Not tomorrow, not in the next life, right? But today. And you can do it with such simple techniques, which of course we don't have time to discuss today, but getting to that. First of all, I just want to say again, you are really in the sweet spot. Just a quick note, Google has actually done tracking of the kind of uh, research of people searching for organic ways to grow their food. And
Mhm.
in the 16 years of Google being tracking this data, we have never seen a bigger spike than now, right? Within these last 6 months. So it's a very exciting time. All you guys, most people I know, and all you guys in the community are excited to do this. And so spreading the awareness through platforms like Sipping Thoughts. I'm so grateful that today we can do this and reach even more people. So, Harika and Suki really appreciate the time for spreading the awareness.
So then really tell us what is the difference between say regular greens and microgreens. I know micro is probably giving it away, but what do we really mean by microgreens?
Yes, so the research that has been done by University of Maryland in College Park and also the USDA that microgreens are a very specific green, right? So I have an example here. You can see that in the frame. They have only two leaves. Now this is Swiss chard microgreens. They have two leaves, which essentially denotes the fact that they are bursting with nutrients at this stage, up to 40 times of nutrients in this stage. And then when they graduate into how you say teenage greens or baby greens, they
Mhm.
lose that nutrition, right? They get another pair of leaves and then another pair of leaves, and so they dilute that nutrition. So they are superfoods in the purest form in the microgreen stage, which is the stage I just showed you, the two leaf form. It's called the true leaf form, right? That is the stage you want to eat them.
Okay, so they are right at the nascent, at the baby, before the baby stage, you're saying. So they are before the baby. They're just two.
No, they are, yeah, it's just before, exactly, before the baby stage.
Okay, and then that eventually grows into a bigger,
Yeah.
plant.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a lot of mystery regarding microgreens as being like these mystical plants which have no future and no end, right? But really, what they are is they're essentially regular seeds that you would grow a kitchen garden from, or a farmer would grow a full crop from, but they are harvested at this specific time. So it's beyond the sprout phase, which are borderline dangerous at times because of the bacterial infections that they can get. But microgreens are completely like 110% safe because we grow them in soil. So it's a full-fledged plant, right? Without any risk of contamination because they have an ecosystem to protect them from any kind of fungal threats or, of course, bacterial threats. So compared to the E. coli that happened some time back, and they had to kind of eradicate all the sprouts from the market, it's a very dangerous place to actually consume them if not done correctly. But microgreens are safe. They're just the right food for new growers who know what they're doing. Yeah.
Which actually brings me to the next point. And maybe I can again have the audience give us their inputs. And I know that's always been a challenge for me. What really has been, if those of you who do garden, what is the biggest challenge that you face while gardening? If you could share with us in the chat box. For me, I never know if I'm putting enough water, for example. That's a big one for me. So yeah, so let's share. Suki says space. Yeah, we all live in places where there isn't that much, we don't have farmland. So space is a big one. Sunlight, true.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Best eating them up.
Pigeons, yeah, our feathered friends.
Yeah. All seeds do not germinate. Point. Yeah.
Yep, yep.
Okay, that's another one. Can they be grown indoors? Maybe we'll come to that, Seema. Thanks for sharing. Okay. So you get an idea, Savio, of, so why don't
Yeah.
you tell us, and yeah, lots of people are still sharing, but maybe you can take it away and share with us what typically are the biggest mistakes new gardeners make in growing, and how can they avoid it?
Yeah, I think, one of like, most people would confess this on, even on their best day, that they have done too much too soon, right? It's like the good old story of the tortoise and the hare, right? We all know it doesn't end up too well for the hare, right? You want to be the tortoise here because slow and steady really wins a race. And the true beauty of microgreens is that, you can start with a little personal, a little planter for yourself, like you have this little earthen pot over here, and this is going to get me started. Believe me, you don't need volume. You need just a little. It goes a long way with microgreens, right? And then you can scale up. So starting small, working bigger and better in the future as you get your family involved. We're going to get into that in a little bit. But the major thing is trying too many things at once, right? So even in our starter kits, we have only 2 seeds so that you don't get tempted to try the whole. Then I'm going to show you the secret closet where you can get more seeds from. But at that point, understand how to germinate the seeds correctly, how to water for them, water them correctly. And then most of you will overwater at this point. And that's the most common. So
That's
I'm actually going into that segue. You will overwater your seeds like crazy. And you think it's a license to overwater because you put some drain holes. Most of our, in fact, except for commercial trays, most of these home trays that you've, home plantations don't have drain holes, right? So that's not a license for you to overwater in that case. So overwatering is one, seed germination is another thing. So we go through baby steps in understanding exactly as a hand hold you, what are the different stages in which you grow your microgreens so that they grow into healthy greens with absolutely no fungal rot. And coming to the next point, fungal rot is huge. It's the biggest pain, frustration point for even experienced growers, right? And the number one thing against fungal rot, again, it comes down to watering. So we, discuss techniques of how you can actually work with the soil. You can actually finger the soil to know your level of moisture in it, right?
Okay.
So there are so many techniques that you can learn. And believe me, once it becomes the paint by numbers approach, you can do it with your eyes closed, right? Even a new grower who doesn't have a green thumb to begin with. And then the other things discussed like pests and pigeons and all those other external factors. Now, because we live in cities,
Yeah.
the best thing is to find a place where they don't need extra sunlight, because a lot of you thinking, oh, I'm going to grow microgreens, I need the typical sunlight exposure, which actually works against them. So we talk about the right sunlight techniques as well. Very, very important to understand, right? But if you're exposing them too much, then you get the pigeons and you get the other kind of rodents coming out and lizards and all that when you expose too much. So you got to find a place in your home where they get that soft light, for example. And I won't get too ahead of myself with all these things, but there are certain secrets that you can apply, and they're very simple once you know how to grow them very safely and basically very cozily in your home, right next to your kitchen table where you can harvest them and eat them. And you don't have to worry about the typical frustrations. Now, most of these points which you brought up were the average person growing a kitchen garden. So this
Yeah.
is not the same rules don't apply. And that's why most people who have been frustrated at the point of growing a kitchen garden will say, look, let me try this out. And I'm sure there are people here listening who have done the kitchen garden thing and the learning curve has been too much. And they've kind of really struggled with the entire thing.
Yeah, I
You
can.
know?
So, how many of you have really struggled with your kitchen gardens? Guys, give us a little heads up on that. I actually did. The balcony was after a while, I said, I'm not doing this anymore. Yeah. So,
Yeah, so we want to turn people off the whole because you're in this. I can't commend you enough that you're in this place where you want to do this, right? And that desire if you go out all excited and something wrong happens, you get fungus or you get some, Pidamacoras staring back at you and you didn't expect them to show up so soon, right? So that is typically what happens for a new grower who doesn't understand soil moisture, who doesn't understand sunlight, who doesn't understand pre-soaking of seeds. So there are a lot of nuances in the techniques that once you learn, it's like you're like your kindergarten, right, with microgreens. Then you can graduate to becoming a proficient kitchen garden grower. Now, when I started this years ago, we were teaching advanced techniques to, the average person who wants to grow at home. And they couldn't get that learning curve, that were taught in big agricultural universities. So we said, let's start here. And nature has a way of teaching you how to care for the plant as it grows older. But once you know how to start them healthy and give them a good foundation, just like kids, right? You have a strong foundation for them. Then it's very easy to kind of graduate into mature greens where they're giving you tomatoes and you're giving you brinjals and, mature herbs. So
okay, lovely. Since you spoke about kids, I'm going to ask you, how does one get to say have the family choose the organic greens or the microgreens that I'm growing versus all the junk food maybe that is so tempting, and all of that advice that we are giving is falling on deaf ears. So what would you like to say there?
yes, I've actually, it's an amazing question. I'm going to segue into a little chapter that I wrote in my book called The Microgreen Morning Miracle, right? And this is the best feeling that growers who have been doing this for years, right, will share with me. Every morning, Savio, I go to my tray and just to see the progress I've made overnight. That is the best feeling you can have. And so that's therapy in itself, because today, everybody is stressed beyond their wits, managing their homes, caring for the family, you know, sanitizing your home all the time, and then also working from home like we're doing, right now. So there's so much of frustration and hair pulling going on right now. But if it starts on a good note, where you actually you're meditating in your me space with your microgreens, that sets the tone, right? You have your coffee or whatever, you're sipping your morning brew, and you're looking at these microgreens and how much they've progressed. They're little babies, right? You want to see how much they progressed overnight, and they really shoot up overnight, right? That's their secret growing time.
No,
So
and I share my
yeah,
personal. It's also, like you said, meditative. It's so aesthetically pleasing. I get into this really nice, calm space, even just looking at a microgreen, because there's a softness to it, which is my personal take. But yeah, go on sharing. I just wanted to let kind of
yes. So what it is essentially, setting the tone, like I said, for the day, and then once you go from there, you can get your family involved. You can get your kids involved. You can have a little healthy competition among yourself. The true beauty is that we can all adopt a tray, right? And you can actually have. Am I? Can you hear me?
Savio,
I,
yeah,
I
there's
think
a
yes,
lag.
your connection.
Yeah.
There's a bad connection. I'm getting a little bad connections. Okay, so am I back now?
So
Yes. So
you're
the true beauty.
frozen. Maybe you want to switch off your video and continue with the audio if there is a bandwidth issue.
Okay, I'm back now.
Okay, give us a second.
Yeah. I think we may need Savio to reconnect.
Yes. Ah, he's just reconnected. Sorry about that.
Just bear with us. We'll just get back with Savio. Do we have him back?
He's back, but I think he's still trying to connect his audio.
This may be a good time. I can see some of you sharing the questions. Anything else that arises, please share here. We will take up the questions shortly.
Uh,
Okay. Yeah, Savio.
Oh yeah. So we're having these tremendously lashing out rains for the past few days here in Mumbai. So it's just actually, storms and kind of flooding kind of situation. So I'm not sure how that is affecting the net, but are you able to hear me now?
yes,
Yeah,
we are.
yeah, we're able to hear you. So yeah, let's maybe just dive back into it.
Okay, right.
Yeah. So we were talking about how to get people to choose the organic microgreens versus the tempting junk food that we're exposed to.
Yes, so I'll pick up where I left off. So I said, all the family members can actually adopt a tray, right? And then you can have a little healthy competition among yourselves where you're actually seeing who's growing faster or maybe growing more. So you can have this little thing going on between family members. You can adopt a tray. So I actually go through the sequence of planting a new tray. So you're guaranteed your consistent greens on a daily basis. Right? That's very that this is not a one-time thing. This is not a trend. This is a lifestyle. So when the entire family gets into it, and I've actually worked with schools for the longest time, right? I've probably shared this with Harika before in Delhi, and we got started like with a little eco club classroom, teaching kids, and my motto has always been, kids growing greens are kids who will eat greens, are kids eating greens, right? And that's so true with microgreens. And this is a great thing now with the amount of things you can do at home right now. This is one of the perfect fit that you can get into a family activity, right? Starting with a few trays and then experimenting and going with it, and then the family has a kind of bonding with that whole experience, and you're sharing, and you're uh, in the meal you're talking about who has grown what, and so there's a real lovely bonding around nature that happens in this kind of situation we are in right now in this pandemic. So
So tell me, Savio, how can you really eat the greens? I mean, are you just going to eat them like they are, or what can you do with them?
yeah, so as far as nutrition is concerned, you want to maximize the kind of nutrient you're getting from the microgreen, right? Otherwise, why bother growing them? So the 40 times nutrients that are compacted in microgreens are actually released when you don't cook them.
Okay.
So when we talk about recipes, we are looking at mainly salad base, or you can also do something like a hot dish, like a soup, but you're not cooking it in the soup. You're just garnishing it on your soup dish, or you're garnishing a main course, or you're sprinkling it over a typical regular salad you have on a daily basis, and you can have it on even your morning breakfast omelets or any kind of uh, I wouldn't say cereal because normally they go with dishes that are savory and not sweet. Okay, but I've even seen chefs using it in five-star hotels with different cakes and pastries. So you can really be creative with this, right? There's no stopping what kind of combination you can have with these greens. And then we've got uh, very popular chefs today who are using it right from Michelin star levels to even your pastry chefs and your average restaurant that is on around the corner on your street. So it's really trickling down into the mainstream because it was only used by Michelin star chefs and they had celebrity restaurants in Hollywood that were using these ingredients. But now, it's like a movement of we the people, right? So we're all partaking in it now and using it in different ways that suits our taste buds. So there are sweet microgreens, there are the earthy tasting, there are nutty and sort of oily textured tasting microgreens, and then the spicy ones. So you're going to choose microgreens based on your particular preference, and you have all the kind of varieties that you can get your hands on, from the exotics to even the basics you find in your kitchen. So
Okay.
So, Savio, let's get into some audience questions. Lots of questions are coming in. So, the first question I think a lot of people are confused about is what kind of seeds do you use? Are these the same seeds that we use for gardening? Are there different seeds that we use? And which ones are best for microgreens?
yes, so Arvind, just show me a few sample of seeds. So when it comes to seeds, again, there's no
See if I can.
mystery.
Can you start your video again? We were facing some difficulty.
Put your
Great.
video on. Yeah, let's. Yeah.
Oh, the video is off also. Okay, so now
Now
in
the
terms
video
of
is on.
seeds,
Yes.
you have a lot of choices that you can grow with, right from the super exotic that the celebrities are using in their restaurants to what you can find in your own humble kitchen pantry, right? So you got the whole spectrum of seeds that you can actually use to grow your microgreens. And the true beauty is that nature doesn't discriminate. So the 40x nutrients, the 40 times nutrients are not only found in the, what I call them, the diva seeds. They're very high maintenance and they look really good. So they're the diva seeds, which are more on the sides of the exotic, but you can have the same nutrients from something you find in your kitchen cabinet, like for example pea shoots, or you call them watana, right? Or you can have something like beans, or even your grams family seeds that can be used to grow microgreens.
The
They may
ones
not,
that we have
yeah.
in our kitchen, the same ones can be used. The ones, the seeds in our kitchen.
Yes, the same ones can be used as long as they are in edible seeds. They're not coated with any kind of course, if you're using it for cooking, definitely they're not coated with toxins, right? So they're absolutely perfect for growing microgreens. And on that note, I would want people to be very careful from their for the sourcing of seeds, because most of the online sources today, or even the store, typical gardening store, they sell seeds that are coated with toxins, right? And that is designed for prolonging the life of the seed. But as a microgreen seed, it's absolutely not suitable. So make sure that you have absolutely the right source for the seeds that you are growing microgreens with. And then what do you find in the kitchen, of course, is edible because you're anyway cooking with it, right? So
Give us some
that's
examples, like, what are the easiest ones for a newbie to start with?
Yeah, so the easiest ones in your kitchen usually are seeds like gram. You can have different kind of pulses. Okay, so you have the mung or the matki family, which are very popular, and they're very forgiving for the new grower, right? So you cannot really go wrong with them. But of course, when you want to get into the tastier and the more fancy looking seeds, you don't really get them in the grocery store. You get them at horticulture stores, and we've got our online store which actually sells these seeds. But what all I'm saying is get started. It doesn't matter if it's a fancier seed or something you find in your kitchen, but you get a hang of growing microgreens, and that deliciousness and nutrients are going to be part of your daily lifestyle. So get started.
Is there a season or can you grow microgreens all year round?
Now, very good question. The true beauty of microgreens is that you can grow them year round. Now, especially in the hottest months, which usually is around May and April, May, sometimes even June, you do have slight restrictions on the varieties that you can grow. But essentially, you will definitely find success with something you find in your kitchen cabinet versus the fancier ones. For example, you can grow matki or mung throughout the year, right? They're these workhorse microgreens that no matter what, they're going to like shoot up, right? And they're going to nourish you. So yeah, the promise is year-round growing, but be selective a little bit. And I have a little cheat sheet. I don't know if I can show that. I have a little cheat sheet which I share with my workshop attendees, and you can actually pick, few seeds on that list, and then you can choose them by the season, right? And they give you the, yeah. So I have a little cheat sheet here, and there's a list of seeds at the back, and then we get into all the details, on that.
Now, one of the questions that people are asking is what are the diva seeds and which are decent? So people are now curious. Who are these diva seeds
Fancier.
and what are they?
Okay,
What is be the
topping
diva?
the diva list, topping the topping the diva list, you have good old broccoli, right? I mean, it's like the superfood of superfoods, most talked about in the media as one of the most powerhouse greens. And so they really make a fantastic addition to your microgreen garden because, like I said, they're easy to grow. I mean, they're almost, you can say, medium level or intermediate level difficulty to grow. But once you get the hang, it's very easy. Then you have things like purple radish, where this is not your regular radish. They have a beautiful purple color to them. They almost look like flowers when you put them into your dish, right? So those of you into edible flowers, a lot of people in the community are aware of it. It's a big trend right now. So these actually look like flowers because they have like this petal kind of texture. So you can get really fancy with your seeds as far as the diva seeds are concerned. But yeah, you find a whole list of it on my website. I can't, we
What
don't have
about
time to get into
mustard
each.
and what about things like that? Mustard and all could be mustard and others.
Yeah. So mustard, you have the regular and you have the diva kind, right? So you have regular mustard you find in your kitchen, which is the humble tadka sort of mustard, and then you have red mustard, right? And it's really going to bring out that color into your salad and make basically a work of art out of your dish. So you have the ordinary and so-called ordinary, but you also have the fancier types, and you can go as creative as you want with this, right? So
Two more questions that I have. One of the first ones that's coming in is that can I just buy them? Can't I just go buy microgreens? Why go through all this fuss of having to, actually grow it? And the second question is, do you need to grow in soil or can you do it in hydroponic systems that are very much in these days?
yes. So when it comes to the first point, buying your microgreens at a supermarket, right? It's like I said, it's a very convenient thing to do. I agree, and why most people would gravitate towards buying them from supermarkets. But unfortunately, the powers that be in the supply chain, their main interest is to not serve you completely organic, holistic greens, right? So you don't know what that green has gone through to be preserved and kept alive on a shelf for days on end, right? There are so many inside secrets that are actually, it's not your fault because you didn't know any better. You were completely sidetracked by this whole trend and gimmicky sort of marketing that it's all natural organic superfoods, but they're taking advantage of that. To be frank, and so you need to be aware as a consumer that you're not buying into the hype of uh, microgreens that come from supermarkets, because like I said, a lot of the time the supply chain has to keep them fresh for you until you pick them up. And the second thing is, like, now this is something which will resonate with most of you watching, is the therapy side of it. Growing your own, you're nurturing your own seeds. It's like, you're raising a little child or many children, right? And that feeling of, that next morning when they've actually they're sprouted and you've like been like an expectant mother or a parent, right? So that's the kind of nuanced therapy that you get from, which I cannot put a price on, and that doesn't compare to store-bought greens. So take what you want from that. Yeah.
And the second question, can you grow them in hydroponic? Like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So hydroponics is a technology which is most misunderstood because at the essence of it, beyond the hype, it's basically a chemical-based system. Now, if you're okay with having chemicals into your food system, just like you would buy store-bought greens, then maybe hydroponics is for you. But if you're like me and if you're like most people in this community, you really cherish at least having some part of your food which is pure nature's gift to you, like in this purest form. So we use coco peat, we use compost, we use like recyclable good to earth materials to make sure that these greens are at least the 10% of the food source is untouched. So even if you buy or grow with hydroponics, it defeats the purpose. So don't get, go into that kind of hype into hydroponics. Grow at least some part of your food completely organic.
So I know we're going to do a full workshop in terms of, I know a lot of people are having a question on what is the process and how to grow. But can you give a few simple tips for people that are wanting to get started?
Yeah. So the first thing is, I would say learn to really control the moisture levels in your growing environment, right? Now we're having like absolutely torrential rain right here in Mumbai. You wouldn't want to put your microgreens on the veranda, for example. That's a quick tip. It will save you most of the headaches, most of the heartaches of growing your food, because I had a client in Goa, and where most of my clients also come from, and we've had like double the torrential rains that we have here in Mumbai, and the same problem, right? They don't see where to place their little tray because moisture will get the better of it. So one of the that's the biggest, my pet subject is like moisture. Understanding the game starts and ends with it. And other tips would be understanding how to use proper sunlight. You don't want to give them too much sunlight. You want to give them just the right amount, because they're little babies. Think of it like delicate greens you're nurturing, little babies, right? And that will set your mind into thinking about them in a very different way. And yeah, I think that pretty much, in terms of tips. Also, you can start with the end in mind. For example, if you have a family of 4, then you know that you can plant these 4 trays in the right sequence, so you're guaranteed harvest, because it's addictive. Once you get used to having these greens on a daily basis, you want to make sure your hand automatically reaches for that pair of scissors to go and snip and put them onto your dish, right? Almost automatically. So plan ahead is what I would say as a tip, as a family member, because then exactly, you're not disappointed. Oh, today it's a no microgreen day, right? Because we're used to it. So like I said, moisture, plan the right positioning for your tray in the home, because this is where you understand how growing at home really makes a difference, where as compared to a garden where most of us don't have the luxury. I know a lot of people in Delhi have done a lot of workshops, they do have the luxury of space, but for us in Mumbai, at least, we don't have that luxury of space like a backyard or a front yard. So positioning your greens in the home is very important as well. So those are a few quick tips, to
My last
help you get
question,
started.
the one is there some things that should not be grown as microgreens? Are there some seeds that should be avoided?
Yes, as a danger zone, you would want to avoid tomato microgreens. They're considered toxic. So that's one of that really stands out. For those who suffer from thyroid problems, you want to stay away from the thyroid family. Sorry, not the cruciferous family, right? So this is a family which traditionally has been a superfood family of greens. So you have broccoli, you have kale, you have radish, you have mustard in this family. But if you have thyroid, then you should avoid and stay away from that. That family of greens. The rest of them are all open, like alfalfa. You've got sunflower. You've got the whole rest of them to enjoy.
Thank you very much. I know a lot of people are asking about the process. So we are planning to have a workshop because the process is very detailed. And unfortunately, it can't be done in a half an hour program. So to go through the whole process, we have planned with Savio that we will have a follow-up workshop and that we will be providing the details for that, in which we will, I think if Rohit, you can show the
Yeah.
slide, in which we will also be providing the microgreen kit so that people can get started on that, because that journey will take about 90 minutes, a little bit more than that, to actually learn how to actually plant, how to do it right, how to manage the moisture, how to manage the sunlight. So I know a lot of you are asking questions on what is the process. So yes, we will be following up with that.
And I
Savio's website
think
is
also
very easy.
for people to
It's saviosouza.com. So his website is actually very, very easy. So Rohit, can you put up the slide if you're there? And before we close, I'd like to take, of course, yeah, I will be sending you out the details for that. So that will be, we're planning to do that on August 27th. And so that we will actually give you all the information on that. Savio, before we close, any last tips?
Well, like I said, before I started, is the tip to really getting success and doing something is taking action, right? So I don't want to be, dealing with fence sitters here. I want people who really want this for their families and for their personal health. If you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, this is a great start. At least you will never have to worry about having at least a little portion of your food completely pure and completely holistic and right from your own, home. So take action, get started. It doesn't matter if you join the workshop, if you don't, as long as you get going with microgreens, I'll be happy, right? I mean, that's what my heart really, longs for, that you get started. So
Well, thank you, Savio. Thank you, Harika. And I hope that all of us will begin this journey. Like I said in the beginning, I'm a fence sitter, so I'm looking forward to the 27th. And I guess I will also start my first tray of microgreens.
Yeah.
awesome.
And I think the good thing is if we have our trays, then we can, go along with you step by step rather than just listening to what you're saying. So I'm really looking forward to it as well.
Awesome.
So we will
Thank
be
you,
sharing.
and thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you, Savio.
Thank you. Thank you.